Kenya, people were shaking. The chairman of the function, where there were a lot of white people, said, I've never seen intellectuals being associated with freedom fighting. Because we need to recruit Ndiga Diogo, with their knowledge and brains. The current discussion around the corridor, if I know now, is how governors should select their successors. Ihe a na-discuss now bụ kedu ka onye na-achị na ndị na-achị ga-esi rọpụta. So this is our democracy. Our democracy is one where one person decides the councillor, the chairman, the local government chairman, the senator, the of rep, oh my goodness. It is in India naturally. Who is the master? And the intellectuals and the elites are doing dance and song around this matter. And they said, onye nkoze megia, therefore onye no now give me. And I asked myself, Nandiba in Ama to say, Ejiajife Ama. Ebayin no now or Makas. How are we going to make progress with this type of thinking? No wonder all the so-called elected officials do not know Onyefana Achulefi because of the distorted view that the EFI were assembled by one man. And we are not a monarchy. So we must perpetuate and celebrate that which is wrong because it has always been so. Ndi Igbo na-asị, as I've said, you can always reverse if your journey, if you're going in the wrong direction. We are going deeper in the wrong direction. Tied to the proper ideological orientation are the issues of values and morality. Make it any way you can, but make it is the currency in town. Those who are asking that our politics, governance, and indeed our economics must have value and morality, and be morality laden, are called losers. President in the America I like very well. He made us say losers. I'm not only lose. Ochoroka akoya no ya be nsogbu adu na what are the problem? Macron akpon those losers. So lose now and that's na nwa lose. Kesiko si lose. So those of us who are insisting, people will now say, Omaro politics is a loser. But exerting influence on the basis of moral authority is better than exercising authority on the basis of office you occupied. If na that authority you didn't exercise moral authority. If no office can the madu were respected. Those who elect to serve must think beyond the office they occupy and bring lasting values into governance and lead on the basis of morality and integrity, on the basis of what is good or bad for the majority of the citizens. The progress of society, Organiru, is premised on this fundamental truth and principle. This is precisely why we need attitude adjustment. Ntugari in our policies, Ntugari in our actions, Ntugari in our strategies. Having laid this foundation, I want to pick up on some examples where this Ntugari has led to some major development in many countries, especially Asia, where we can do some comparative analysis. I want to quote, I went to bed that night convinced that they are a different people playing to a different set of rules. I went to bed that night convinced there are different people playing to a different set of rules. Onye Kuriha Abulinkwanyu, January 10, 1966. He came to Nigeria, Mbasom on the Commonwealth Heads of State. He was a young prime minister. And he sat on the table with a very senior cabinet member in Nigeria, who was busy telling this young Lincoln Yu, Niagafarapu government, Niewurugo policy government, may pay for himself. In fact, near a shoe factory, because near ban go importation of certain shoes. If you see, government minister, na go na banquet. So, I went to bed that night, convinced that there are different people playing to a different set of rules. Incidentally, those set of rules, okay, change. That's why we are discussing this. Because of no change, we are still playing to a different set of rules that cannot bring transformation or development. The transformation of Singapore from poverty to prosperity in 3 decades, led by Lee Kuan Yew, was underpinned by an attitude that was informed by his on fellow Asians. You know, Malaysia is also a multi-ethnic society. They have Malays, Chinese, Indians, and others. So it's not a monolithic society. They are there. That hatred was driving them, especially by the Chinese who were lording it over them. And self-respect, resentment had been lorded over. His sense of confidence, an environment that bullied the Chinese minority, he didn't want that. And the willingness to rally Singaporeans to the hardship of going it alone. So a leader who is really reading, because when we call leaders, sometimes some of us say, they are leaders, they are rulers. There's a decision between those who lead and those who rule. So leaders are by definition servants of the people. You don't need to say I'm a servant leader, because all by definition, a leader is a servant of the people. So Lee Kuan Yew understood that. If you read the book from Third World to First, you will see Lee Kuan Yew going out to recruit people into politics. Serious-minded, knowledgeable people. So he was active in recruiting those who will help in taking Singapore to a new level. The attitude of hard work, planning, improvising. Like I tell people, you don't have to have 24 hours light before you can create an island that has that 24 hours light. China did it. Things were not okay in China, but they created islands of excellence where the industries were located, where things can happen. And it can happen in this country. And it's happening in this country. In his words, we cannot, I'm quoting Lee Kuan Yew now, afford to forget that public order, personal security, economic and social progress, and prosperity are not the natural order of things. Things that are not just me. You know, I watch our people and they think development is like growing up. You're not at ED 15, that ED 18, one ED 20, then as an mature. No. They are not the natural order of things. They depend on the ceaseless effort and attention from an honest and effective government the people must elect. Honest, effective. If you dissect effective, if you competence, knowledge, empathy, understanding that in have service above self. Incompetence, they almost worse than corruption. It's worse. In fact, when people are stealing, incompetence, but we joke with it. Anybody can be anything. Somebody told me that ability has become disability. Onye maife, asisi debi enako, no sorrows. You are serapia. How? And society wants to make progress. Organiru anyị na-ekwu. People I need the attitude adjustment. Implying a government whose attitude and aspirations must mirror that of the citizens, the informed and patriotic electorate. It means a workforce imbued with positive values, willing to give the best and manage for greater productivity. If you examine closely both the rhetoric and reality of the Singaporean transformation, you will understand the underlying policy and attitudinal requirements, hard work, self-determination, pride, if you like, avoidance of shame, justice, and equal opportunity as embedded in their fair, not a welfare principle. I gave a lecture, the first Jakonde lecture. I gave the first Jakonde lecture in Lagos, November last year. And it's a very interesting lecture because I did some research. Two things majorly that I became informed. How did Jakonde become governor? People, but he was schooled in the school of Awo. He understood what Awo went through. There was some tutelage. What did he do that is remarkable? Over 3,000 housing units for the poor. Today. And I recommended to the federal government, the same thing I recommend to Enugu, to all states. If you tax the rich, you must deploy it to the poor. If you sell land 10 million, 20 million, part of that money must build low-cost housing. Or any other way. Because now the poor, so when will the land? And I told them in Lagos, tax Ikoi, tax VI, but provide for the poor. Somebody was asking me to talk on poverty and insecurity. I'm going to speak next week. Poverty and insecurity. When we were all poor and we were insecurity, what is causing insecurity is the inequality. And I got back to that one. So it is about the people and the stake they have, an uncompromising stance against corruption, a deep sense of a mission to run clean and effective government, an attitude of equality before the law, and the rule of law with strict enforcement that deterred crime, insistence on high quality education, pursued and nurtured talent, and the instituted meritocracy. And finally, a sense of self-confidence. When Singapore banned the chewing gum in 1992, they were ridiculed. They called them a nanny state. But they were confident that they would laugh last. In the words of Lin Kuan Yew, we would have been a grosser, ruder, cruder society had we not made these efforts to persuade our people to change their ways. So leaders leading can persuade citizens to have this attitude adjustment. And change their ways they did, they transformed their society. Today, you are talking about Singapore of over $60,000 per capita. Okwa, in Nigeria kama in the 1960s. Today, Nigeria can equal $2,000. Amara Muruzukwa now, Egonos na 500 plus. Singapore is one of the safest, most peaceful, and cleanest places to live. And poverty is no longer part of the development lexicon of the multi-ethnic nation. If you go to Singapore, you will understand. Part of what they did was this housing revolution. Onye ọbụla nwere stake. Ị ga-enwe ụlọ through a creative pension scheme. Through a creative pension scheme. Onye ọbụla. Now compare the Renaissance school of thought with our current way of doing business in Nigeria. In analyzing the Singaporean attitude, I picked one of their guiding principles for emphasis. It summarizes the fundamental social contract that binds society, and more importantly, that binds the government and the governed. This attitude and principle is summarized in 12 words. To give every citizen a stake in the country and in its future. When I read this statement, I turned to my wife, who was around when I was trying to put this together, and I said, do you know what this means? If we mean the citizen, Lin Kuan Yew and government, that's what it means. It means that a country has a future, a vision of its future. Not any future, a glorious future. It means that we must put structures, systems, and right values in place. Now, if this future of abundance is to materialize, it means that if you are a megad, a meroa, an Okada rider, a wheelbarrow pusher, a hairdresser, a housemaid, that the government is thinking of you and society cares. It means that we shall all join hands, led by the government, of course, to create a society where you are not only able to meet the basic necessities of life, such as food, shelter, and clothing, but there is a guarantee that your children will be better equipped to be part of and to take advantage of that glorious future. It means an attitude to public housing that ensures widespread ownership for all classes. It means an attitude to public school system that guarantees first-class education for the poor. It means an attitude towards agriculture and other economic activities that build access of the poor. When people do not have a stake, there will be no peace. When they do not have a stake, the attitude will be to destroy rather than to create. It was George Gilder, the author of The Spirit of Enterprise, who said, and I quote, "Lease a man a garden, and in time he will leave you a patch of sand. Make a man a full owner of a patch of sand, and in time he will grow there a garden on the land." So, you leased him a garden. He doesn't feel a sense of ownership. But give him a desert. Say, and also when he there, he will make the place a garden. Sense of ownership. In 1982, I leave Singapore. I go to Malaysia. When I went to Malaysia a couple of years ago, quite frankly, I will not lie, I shed a little tears. I didn't know they were that advanced. I knew that they had gone far, but I didn't know. Malaysia. Malaysia. Ndị na ha bịara here were palm henna. The roads are smooth. In fact, one thing we noticed, my wife and I, were a sense of contentment. Ndị nnukwu na-eje eri nri na big hotel. Ndị obere na-eje eri nri na small hotel. Everybody was, things where we had to call people and ask, what's going on? Because as a social scientist, I don't visit a place without inquiring. Or the way they engineered the society. A leadership that emerged, Mahathir Mohamad. In 1982, when Mahathir Mohamad was running for election, that made him the Prime Minister of Malaysia, he chose the slogan, clean, efficient, again, efficient, meaning knowledge, competence, and so on, and trustworthy. In his memoir, A Doctor in the House, which I recommend you read, he said he knew that Malays disliked change. He knew. But he knew that Malaysia would not develop if they stuck to their old ways. According to him, I always believe that things could be done differently, and that value system determine the success or otherwise of an individual, a community, or a nation. While the values of a community or nation develop naturally, they can also be deliberately inculcated. And the best way to do this is for government to practice these values. Go to Malaysia today and see how the country has been transformed. The right leadership, long-term vision, values, ideology, and strategy. A leadership that was committed to the prosperity of all our people. They indeed knew Ndefa Naturef. In 1991, in the same Malaysia, the idea of a long-term plan occurred to the leader, and they turned to the Institute for Strategic and International Studies to develop a conceptual blueprint that articulated their social, economic, and political path. A 30-year plan, dubbed Vision 2020, which is this year, which outlined what Malaysia needed to do to be a developed country. The target was $16,000 per capita income, an average growth rate of 7% for 30-year period. In the consultation and launching that followed that Vision 2020, the Prime Minister underscored the importance of national integration. And I've spoken about this in several fora. In his words, we need to first establish a single united Malaysian nation, he said, Though born of different races, all Malaysians had to see themselves as nationals of one and the same country. Different though we are in our origin, ours was a common destiny. We must also differ politically, but our loyalty and dedication to our nation, what he called Bangsa Malaysia, a single Malaysian people, unified but diverse. And he said something else that is very important. He wanted Malaysians to develop and be modern according to their own historical pattern, with their own distinct ethical and moral ethics, not by aping others and losing our soul. And this is the right attitude, the right ideology, and the right strategy. So I were examples where people have been even in worse situations like we have been. But a leader emerged and begin to readjust how society is organized, how we need to do things in a new way. Today, the same Malaysia, if you go and look at their per capita income, is over 12,000 US dollars. The same people, before. We are now sending our students to go to Malaysia to go and study engineering. What is going on? University of Ibadan, University of Nigeria, the premier universities, we are way, way, way ahead of these institutions before. But today, is it by in their very popular book, because I want to look at institutions too, Why Nations Fail, the Origins of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. These great professors, Achemolgo and Robinson, they argue that there is no substitute to inclusive economic and political institutions in the journey of transformation. So as we are moving, you can create equal structures, institutions that enable everyone to have a stake in what is happening now and what is happening in the future. This stake in the future meaning that if, like I said, if you're a megad and your kids are getting good education, you will work hard because they will be partakers of the future, the glorious future. But if they are not learning, well, that was a different story. It is not just institutions, but inclusive ones. In this book, which is really regarded as a must read for those of us in development studies, they were saying that they took one example from the Kingdom of Congo, and that's why I brought it into this speech. The current Democratic Republic of Congo, just to illustrate what institutions can do. It became clear how leadership choices, incentives, and absence of inclusive institutions prevented her transformation. The capital of Congo, Mbaza, had a population of 60,000 in 1500, about the same size of Lisbon, Portugal, and higher than London, 50,000. In a way, Mbaza was developing as a sophisticated capital the same way Lisbon and London was. But that was then. There was early contact with the Portuguese that brought technology and education to Congo. So what happened? Why are they still the way they are? Congo and Lisbon and London have gone. The attitude of the leader, the king, was key, and the incentives were lacking. According to this, Achemolgo and Robinson, the citizens faced a high risk of all their output being expropriated and taxed by all the powerful kings. In fact, I asked these questions of our administrators. When you set up a private school, the state should be asking you, what can we do to assist to make this school function well? Because you have assumed part of the responsibility of the state. But in Hainafobo, ego ne collecting a tax. How do we? In collect the tax, in your road, in your oko, in your mili. So private enterprises was a center simply for tax collection. But you might not like Trump, but remember when he came, he was assembling private sectors and asking, Ogini, Kidifeji, what can I do? Is there something? I want you guys to come back. I want you to do this. Tell us, the state, what we can do to help you. About that attitude adjustment. For us, Iganiru, you have to understand these basic principles. No one set through a private hospital. No one set through a private institutions. No one narrow housing. They provide is an alternative to the state. Therefore, KDFI game to support. That is the attitude, but the reverse kind on here. In fact, it looks like we don't even want you to set up. This scheme, taxation, they face a high risk of all their output being expropriated. Their continued existence was held by a thread. Many of them were captured and sold as slaves. This is their king. Hardly the environment to encourage investment or to increase long-term productivity. Neither did the king have incentives to adopt the plow on a large scale or to make increasing agricultural productivity his main priority. Exporting slaves was much more profitable. So production is erroneous. When I look around us and I see, before I was coming for this lecture, I tried to check the budgets of the states to see Kidebe Gonaga. You will see that majority of the resources of the state naga to building roads. And some of these roads, as you know, are actually very poor quality, but they do go there. Now, physical infrastructure, human infrastructure, the person, the people. You can't be building lanes of highways when poverty is rising. Part of the crisis of governance. Check the data. When I assumed office, malaria nebu 10 people per 100 or 50 per 100. Actually, reduce here to 20. And then you put structures and things in place. You make or reduce. Nobody asked that question. Or a conversation. Conversation about how many kilometers of road. We don't ask. In the rural areas, I was discussing with someone yesterday, and I said, and the person confirmed. I said, are you aware? Now, in certain primary schools, including in Enugu places, now teachers now merge class 1, class 2, class 3, now one class, and be teaching them. Because there are only 2 teachers or 3 teachers in that rural area. In 2020, I was telling the person and I said, I hope you know that educational outcome is driven by educational input. And the most critical input with teacher quality. Who no traveler and go and see this famous Harvard University? Where is it? I haven't seen it, but you are there. Abroad the structure. People don't know and they hear the hands. So, if you want to incentivize this process of sending teachers to rural areas, you have to create a new structure. You have to have a way of saying, can I do two bedrooms in rural areas? Tinyere has solar. There are 5,000 or 10 more. But tinye monitors that must make sure that never happens. If it means bringing back solid headmasters retired go before, let us do it. But it is a task that must be done because learning is not taking place in the rural areas. Or the rock. Teachers are all clustering around the urban. So this scheme, if you fast forward to today's Nigeria, where many of our leaders are indeed rulers and where our common resources are used for the benefit of few, going by the recent statistics on growing inequality, and where poverty has held many of the citizens in servitude, and where corruption not only taxes us excessively, and high incidences of armed robbery, kidnapping, and terrorism mean our lives are once again being traded for cash. But not the same thing. Slavery, now we don't need to leg, we kidnap you and get cash. Your life has a value. High network high network gịnị one value. Na onye a ha na-achị kidnap nwere high kidnapping value. Under these conditions, where is the incentive to deepen or take a strong stake in the nation and its future? How are we different from the Kingdom of Congo, where the king himself was the obstacle to development? The only technology we are willing to master is the technology of how to mask the means to our corrupt funds. The incentives we respond to are incentives that provide immediate reward, irrespective of the means of acquiring it. The only game in town has become politics as a means to an end, defined as taking care of myself, my family, and my generations unborn. The innovations we embrace are innovations of terror and guns that will enable us to capture political power and to create non-inclusive political and economic institutions. As we struggle for the control of oil wealth, there's no struggle for the competition or control of the technology in the oil industry. So that which we own, we do not really own, as we continue to pay heavily to use other people's ideas and technology to bring oil from the ground. In the Ochanava now, I am a good thing with the oil. The technology is good the oil, Kadinaka. And yet we created an institution that was supposed to equip us, enable us, create this capacity. Okabo, achọpụta oil na Niger, ma Ghana. And so for transformation to take place, when the majority is powerless, meaning, we need to reorient our attitude to create or use institutions to deliver qualitative goods and services to the majority. Why do I keep speaking about the majority? To make progress is to uplift the majority out of poverty. Society is no longer really designed to take care of those who have already taken care of themselves and to reduce inequality significantly. And why should we be concerned about widening inequality? Because that's my main concern. The widening is widening. In the book, there's a new book that I just read, The Spirit Level. Why greater equality makes society stronger. Greater equality. If you go to Europe, that's why you don't see all this, the type of crime in African America and the type in African Nigeria. The state is able to moderate between the rich and the poor so that the poor is not really at the bottom by taxing and doing public health, public education. If you have a certain minimum level of comfort, go to the Scandinavian countries of Denmark and Sweden, you water hand. Even in UK, the state is the moderator. This new book that I said I read, it says, it underscores the importance of inclusiveness and reducing inequality in any transformation agenda. They know that the transformation of society is a project in which everyone has a shared interest. Greater equality is the gateway to a society capable of improving the quality of life for all of us, and an essential step in the development of a sustainable economic system. In essence, the great inequality we're experiencing in Nigeria must be seen as a hindrance to the transformation agenda, and that policies must be targeted to create greater equality, or else this Organiru will be at best fragile and most likely unsustainable. Needless to say that the violence around us, partly a manifest of great inequality, can hardly allow any transformation to take root. If a crisis generates the inequality, you all can enjoy in the north. Farmers can't go to farm, and so on and so forth. So it's not something you just wish away. It's something you need to deal with. To deal with this inequality requires significant attitude adjustment. An appreciation that the wealth of the nation is for all, that equal opportunity means that we must return to the rebuilding public primary and secondary schools, and public health facilities. I'm not sure how many people are old enough to know libraries and public libraries that you can walk in and borrow books in this our country, in this Enugu, in everywhere. Public libraries. I hope you know. Now you can with library board, but without libraries. I hope you know. You might have attitude and a cool adjustment and ideology and so on. Or no. I was just reading. You have an NMP, a refinery that incurred 71 billion naira cost and produced 5 billion. Nah, it's only so nobody can discuss with her. No. On a serious note, how? E.g., 70 something we produce 5. And next year we continue. Abba. It's so good. We have, I used to remind people, I said, in those days, Umu driver, Oga, they did the same school as Umu Oga. Please make note of that. Umu driver Oga, they did the same school as Umu Oga. And we don't know private schools, and we don't know all of us, the general public schools. This is how you bridge the inequality. Because the children of Umu driver will eventually be competing with Umu Oga. The middle class, taking a flight out of the public system to private system. By the way, I must tell this story. Because 5 minutes. Yes, I will take 5 minutes also. But I was in my village last week. Something struck me. As I was driving out, one village lady with 4 children stopped me. He said, I said, yes, in a Ben went to her father's place, returning now to her husband's place. He said, what was the issue? She went to collect school fees. He said, school fees? Your children are so young. Why are they not in the public primary school? What this villager answered me. I said, no, my children are makuko. When we didn't have money, I would do them from the private to the public. Or disappear. My PA money, I say, are you listening? This is coming from a villager. That she's willing to go and borrow because she understood that the children were not learning in the public rural school. And near this willing, he made the sacrifice. Real. The woman age school. So we are not theorizing. We are not talking. We are speaking about reality. If it didn't know. This professor of public policy, Robert Reich, he says inequality undermines the trust, solidarity, mutuality on which responsibilities of citizens depend. This is the summary of it. If it undermines citizenship's responsibility, on you have violence now. There's no trust, there's no solidarity, there's no mutuality. A belief from Namuna give you on this society. So I say, okay, you shop right, therefore, it's a matter that should concern us, concern every person in governance, that you must address this. So how can you have responsible citizenship where the majority fees is excluded? When there's one law for the poor and another for the rich? How can you have mutuality and solidarity when every rich Nigerian dies in London or Paris? and every poor man dies in his forsaken village or urban slum. And you need this adjustment in our attitude. In 2008, President Barack Obama was inaugurated as the president, and I noted what he said. He said, "For they have forgotten what this country has already done, what free men and women can achieve when imagination is joined to common purpose and necessity to courage." Please make note, common purpose and necessity to courage. Meaning, this attitude adjustment cost there. The established political order may not even allow you unless you the courage and you are going to drive using imagination for common purpose. Because the systems are rigid. The recruitment process is rigid. Onya is not part of us. So there is no change. It was a mere before. So when people are talking about 30-year plan, if onye nke will less than 4 years, and then if I gana not the lasting structures that will lead us to Ghana. No. Onye ọzọ bịa ka o build mba. In fact, nke onye ọzọ build halfway, I must not continue. M ga-eme nke m ka afọ na mụ. Reorientation, attitude adjustment. Mgbe m nụrụ that statement from Obama, I was thinking of Ndi Igbo as it relates to us in search of our renaissance. I have for convenience called this ideology of creative partnership. The message is that the Igbo competitive spirit must be met by our traditional value of cooperation. Else, the imperative of modern businesses and new style of political competition will diminish our individual achievements and stunt the economic and political development of the region. The first time I tried to speak around this issue was when I was invited by Ndo Okikpe, Lagos, the Igbo lawyers in Lagos. And I raised the question. They invited people, and I said, the modern way of his Afia will shop right. When these people arrived, watch you. When they arrive, need spare parts. Ruan mega shop with air condition. EJ no hassling. You go to Modron, my return, putting all our people out of business. You need to change. Competition. Oburo, Obu and Sons. Obu, Ndiozo, Limited, PLC. Because if you become limited and PLC, you can use other people's money. But this competitive spirit must be matched by a cooperative spirit. I felt that Obama was talking to us in Igbo in the Southeast. Arguably, at no time in our history have we been more individually successful. Yet, signs of collective failures are all around us. We are the technology entrepreneurs or merchants of this nation, yet we have not seen any need to establish a first-rate technology institution east of the Niger to support or upgrade this trade. When individual entrepreneurs have taken the journey of first discovery with the attendant first mover disadvantages, neither the Igbo state, the communities, or social groups provide any form of support or encouragement. In this instance, you'll be thinking of people like Inos. If you take the risk to be the first mover, so that these enterprises will survive. If you take the risk to begin to ask institutions like Hilton to come to Enugu, so that these things do not fail. First mover disadvantage. The state now comes in to say, how do we make this possible? Makano other benefits to the individual, but to the society. We have a region without a regional agenda. Who is going to nudge the traders and manufacturers into new and more productive ways? Who is going to teach that cooperation is as important as competition in today's business world? Who will be the arbiter of strong values that had helped the Igbo community in the past, they seem lost on the new generation. The values of hard work, honesty, thrift, trustworthiness, willingness to delay gratification, respect for elders. Let me conclude on what Nana had mentioned. Building institutions for the future. This book that I make all my students read is called Culture Matters: How Values Shape Human Progress, written by Lawrence Harrison and Samuel Huntington. They raised important questions. Do we dare to look ourselves in the face, even if it's difficult to recognize ourselves? We go for the Debe mirror to look and examine yourself. It might be a difficult exercise, like it's sorry if we figure, but it is worth the exercise. This is a question I raised to allow us to interrogate our new ways of being, which unchecked will take us further away from that renaissance future. On a note of optimism about the future, in daring to look ourselves in the face, the current leadership of Hanese and the Governors Forum decided that to stem the tide and forge a cooperative attitude that may take us out of the current malaise of underdevelopment, cry of marginalization and hopelessness. How can a people so creative and industrious and found to excel all over the world not be able to come together to develop their own homeland? Ayebego, 50 years ago. In fact, the history of those who surrendered, the history of rejuvenation, renaissance. You will remember Japan after the bombing of Hiroshima. The king, the emperor, not king. Emperor was like God. He gave a 4-minute address that extolled the citizens. We surrender now. But we shall rise. 50 years on, we are still lamenting. So when the leadership of Ohaneze came up with this, it was heralded as a new beginning. In an attempt to recreate the Southeast region of Dr. Michael Opera, a region that was adjudged as the fastest in the world in the 60s, Ohaneze therefore set up a 54-man committee of eminent Igbo men and women at home and in diaspora under my chairmanship. The committee has deliberated over several weeks and have come up with institutions and platforms that would, in the words of Obama, allow us to join imagination to common purpose and courage to necessity. We have recommended the creation of 2 institutions, a foundation that will allow the Igbo spirit of philanthropy and community development to thrive, and an investment company that harnesses private investable resources for regional infrastructure that will improve our competitiveness and raise our productivity and prosperity. These 2 institutions will be owned by Igbos of all classes. It is worth noting that the committee worked selflessly without requiring any financial contribution from either Ohaneze or the governors. In a way, suggesting that this new set of leaders, if I may call them so, are beginning to think of service above self. This is the new attitude and orientation that is required from leadership. To be a member of the foundation, you simply need about 1,000 naira. Kudos to Ohaneze and the Southeast Governors Forum that supported this initiative. This was a complete turnaround in attitude and ideological orientation. This is Intogari in a way, indeed. We eagerly await implementation for us to confirm this new way of thinking. We expect that this will increase the solidarity and mutuality of citizens of the Southeast and Igbos in other states and their sense of pride. The right attitude is to support this new Ohaneze orientation and demand commitment and accountability. Ọganiru bụ ntụgharị uche ntụgharị omume and ntụgharị usoro, which is the process. Ntụgharị ka esi eme ife. Finally, we should not ask for a perfect country or a perfect region or a perfect aligo before we act. We should act for us to have a perfect country or a perfect aligo. Change will only come and endure when we are willing to make the necessary sacrifices and join hands as all divides to courageously align action to common purpose and place the nation above self. God help us. Thank you very much.
Please, another round of applause for Professor Wu. I'm sure you will all agree with me that we made the right choice in restarting Nkata. And as you know, this is Nkata Umuibe, so we are now kicking off the interactive session. And so it's my pleasure to invite to lead the interactive session as the moderator, Mr. Ken Ike Okere, Zonal Director, FRCN Southeast.
Mr. Chairman, Enugu Sports Club, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the band there one, as I say in my own side of Igbo land, on the Menakpole, and Requama, Chief Loretta Lekwere, Requama, okay, and over I am not here. No, the band there one. Earlier this evening, when Professor Osita Ogbu arrived this distinguished club, he met me at the restaurant down here, and he found me eating. I was eating heartily, a very big bowl of food. And when he inquired as to what I was doing, I said I was getting ready for him. I needed to fill up very well before he knocked me down later on. And I've just whispered to him now that he's seen why I needed to eat before his lecture. Please, a big round of applause for him. Indeed, it's an excellent choice having to bring him here. At first, when I heard that it was an intellectual that was coming, I was a bit worried. But I am happy that Prof is one who has not spent all his life in the academia, but has had vast public sector experience, has had CSO experience, citizen sector experience, and has had so much international exposure. Prof, welcome. Thank you. Time is fast spent. We'll go straight. I will not do a summary. I do not like moderators who summarize a 1 hour or 30 minutes lecture because it just gives us the moderator's own impressions. Every good lecture leaves a multiple of impressions according to each person's capacity to imbibe. So I'm going to leave you with the impression you have. I have a few questions I'm going to ask Prof, but I will devote most of the time to you. So if you have a question, please get it ready. Please, a question, not another lecture. Please. When we invite you to present your own lecture, you can give us all of what you have. What we want is a question, or you have a comment that would clarify what Prof is saying. All right. Prof, my own questions do not require you having to eat dinner. But I would be very interested in finding out from you a few things. One, in the storytelling part of your lecture, in fact, I like the fact that your lecture is full of stories, showing that you truly are a novelist. You talked about 1966 and Lee Kuan Yew, the late Prime Minister of Singapore, visiting Nigeria. Many young people in this hall today would say, so this problem has been here all along. It's not new. What hope then is there that if this problem has not been solved over the generations, that there is going to be the beginning of a new attitude to solving this problem?
Well, you know, 1966, I said in the Southeast, we were even the fastest growing region, economy in the world. So there were leaders, and in Nanya, the set of leaders, the MI operas, but what is giving us hope? I think that the youth say, and they are going to perhaps demand and that things can be different. So it is this looking into the future and saying, Mbano, Obrozi case you made 5 years ago, Nigerians are looking for, Ndibo are looking for somebody who will transform their lives. They don't care where the person comes from. So, I know you see one of the 3 pillars: leadership, citizens themselves must rise to say, I demand this if the better. Oburenyegi 10,000 naira, ijena snatch ballot box. How can the consequences of this matter?
Yes. Dalo. Kedon Kegabia first, citizens or the good leaders? Because we've debated this time immemorial, especially in respect to the Nigerian question. If you were to give a step-by-step approach to implementing all you have said here today, what should be the first step, and who should take that first step?
No, not very clear. If you look at the examples I gave of Singapore and Malaysia, so leadership has a role to shape the actions of citizens. I said so. Okay, we courage to say, if I may bite me, now. But no, the Ntungari starts from me. So that leader will make that sacrifice.
Okay, from the leadership. Where do we find him, Prof?
Anian.
How do we put them in office?
Oh, if I know a cousin, my candidate in on it was sitting in an office. We are praying, we are hoping. Even as you pray now, Nigerians are like a prayer. They pray, take development, they pray, development. No, action oriented. Anyway, students no, youths no, women no, men no, who are listening. So it is a collective effort, Mr. Moderator, that we need to change the way things are. And we're actually thinking.
Okay, good hope. I'll soon be coming to you, people in the hall, but I have something very key I want to ask you, Prof. National cohesion. In all the examples you have given, national cohesion was a critical success factor. It was a critical a priori to development. How do we get that done in Nigeria, since we know that without national cohesion, we can't even develop? And in a country where, for now, everyone is still talking about ethnic leadership, for instance, the Yorubas want to have a shot at the presidency in 2023. The Igbos are demanding it, and some say the Northerners still want it. Where do we start in terms of national cohesion?
You are touching a very important pillar for development. Imana lecture Erika. I spoke at the annual, I was a guest lecturer of the Chartered Institute of Bankers in Lagos. And the topic was on citizenship and national integration, where I espoused this. Yes, there has to be a sense of nation before a nation can advance. Maka country diiche from nation. Nationhood arises from that mutuality and solidarity. N'ife na aya onye nọ n'ugwu na aya onye nọ na ndịda. Now the progress of one is also the progress of the other. Maka onyanwa bụ ihe na drive, for instance, even the way we make our budget. Ima asị gị na Enugu Onitsha road, no dị mkpa for Southeast region, isi rapụgo di anyị. Na nke ị chọrọ bụ nke gara na your backyard. Whether or not mo nwe comparative value. But you saw how I ended. You can't wait for a perfect situation to act. You act to create some sense of perfection. So I give you good step by step. We're not sure. Even if we get Southeast, create the citizenship of Southeast. Citizenship of Southeast. In my own meaning. No Nyabia can come and work here without a mind. Common citizenship. Only Anambra can be here. Only Opera be as in just live. I'm saying full rights and responsibilities.
Including working in the civil service of that
correct. State. Only with the citizenship I know. You get credit to go to Nien.
All right. The heat is too much around here. So let me push it down to the hall. So if you have a question, who has the microphone? I'll take the first set of 5 questions. And then we'll see if there is time for another set. Okay? Nana is here.
Thank you very much, Prof, for your lecture. It's a good thing you gave an example using Singapore, because some of us have argued that it's, I'm trying to bring the question down to Alibo. Some of us have argued that Alibo can easily be a city-state like Singapore. And Lee Kuan Yew, that you gave us an example, in an interview he granted to Paddy Zachariah, he pointed to culture as the underpinning for the success of Singapore, because embedded in the Singaporean culture is a sense of order. So it was easy for him as a leader to leverage on that. And he gave an example that it's not just Singapore, the East Asian countries, Japan, Malaysia, have that same trajectory in terms of culture. Now, coming to Alibo, we are Republican in nature. Now, my question then is, you've given an example from M.I. Opara, and you gave examples from what is happening in contemporary Igbo state. To what extent is culture responsible for that attitude that we now need to reorientate to achieve development and progress? And I say that because in another context, Max Weber had argued that you need a cultural reorientation to achieve development, while Lipset counter-argued that you don't have to change culture in order to adjust development. So I want to understand what your thoughts are around it. Thank you.
All right, the gentleman over there.
My name is Robert Ngu.
What's your name, sir?
Robert Ngu.
Okay.
The question I have, there was a mention of the 60s, where the Southeast, where the Southeast was the fastest growing economy in the world. And the secret of that growth was agriculture. It seems there is total ignorance about agriculture and nobody's talking about agriculture anymore. And I'm curious to know if this group that was set up, headed by Professor Wu, if they are thinking towards bringing back commercial agriculture back to the Southeast. Thank you.
Thank you. Short and sharp. Any lady? Is there any lady raising a hand? Okay. None. Let's go to the gentleman at the back, at the far back left. At the back left. Behind the gentleman in a red cap.
Good evening. My name is Prince Eje George. I want to appreciate the prof for the wonderful lecture. My question is simple. I actually want to know the role of religion.
Religion.
Yes, the role of religion in all these problems, whether religion actually contributed to the problem we're having in Nigeria. Like, because when the moderator, Saike Ken, actually asked the prof that how do Nigeria get good leaders? Prof answered that it is through prayer. And of course, Nigeria have been praying and praying and praying. Everything we want to do, we pray. Now, we talk about those countries like Singapore, China, all these developed worlds. They actually put religion aside to an extent and face squarely their economic, socio-political issues. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3, 2 more to go. One over there, and then you come this way. Yeah, that way, behind you. Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everybody.
Your name, sir?
My name is Amobi Nnam. I'm from Apugo, here in Enugu. My question is the leaders you are talking about, sir. The leaders that are going to go out and ginger up these citizens. This leader, how does he become? How does he become that person? What are the obstacles he's going to face? I mean, if you are going to start a business, there is, for instance, common mistakes. There are stuff like you write business plan, like how do we manufacture these leaders if we have to manufacture them in a factory?
All right. Excellent question. Thank you. We'll take the 5th one this way. The gentleman right there raising his hand. Okay, I'll come to you.
My contribution.
Your name, sir?
Nam. Aneyono.
Afagogene, sir.
Aneyono is the surname. Namdi.
Okay.
I think there should be a way of recognizing other leaders externally. When I take when we take history behind, it will be recalled that the second coup that took away people like Ironsi. As a child, I was told that when they were taking him away, somebody who was with him in the office refused to give him away to them because he shouldn't administratively be okay. So I think such characters need to be recognized highly. The next thing is that whether east, west, people like that try to project the Igbos in industry, you can call it art, performance, and other areas need to be recognized.
All right.
Beside all, please, those that don't perform well as it relates to Igbos,
thank you,
whether
sir.
you are Igbo or you are not, should be downgraded. When I talk about this, I think.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. Thank you. All right. Okay. All right. We'll give a special recognition to one more person here. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Professor Chikaniveze. Actually, my question is like a follow-up from the first question which you asked the speaker. And that is concerning, there is no doubt, you could see that his work premised on the fact that leadership is very important for us to achieve the kind of development we are anticipating. And then we also know that we have not been having these leaders. I'm not a very strong believer in democracies as it is practiced presently. But the issue is, and that is where the problem lies, how do you now throw up these leaders that we require? Can it be done under the present system that we are having? For instance, I know that, I can't remember, sometime when we had Professor A.B.C. Nwosu, no, not A.B.C. Nwosu, but Professor Nwosu, who came out with option A4. And the thing produced, arguably, in fact, what you might consider as the best election we have had so far. And subsequently, that was jettisoned. Now, I want to ask our speaker today whether what they are considering at that regional level, are they trying to give some pointers to us or looking into these systems that can get us these good leaders? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do recognize that there are one or two people over here. When we come to the second phase, I will recognize you. Please, don't get angry. Thank you. All right, Prof, over to you. You have the 5 questions, or 6.
Unfortunately, professors are the ones that ask questions. They don't know how to answer questions. Oh, how I do the question? Let me try. Nana talks about culture and how critical culture is. in the development process. Certain things are broken. Certain ways of being, we manufacture, create. And some of them are obstructive. What do you name now? Some of the things happening now in the Southeast, our culture. We had a culture of respect for elders. Even before. But now, in fact, I say, Lagos, a bridge. That's not our culture. That's why we are saying we should return, reorient, come back to that one. Work ethics, for instance. All hard work may lead to success. That's our way. So there are tenets in our culture that are developmental. In fact, I can even tell you some of the things that people think that are not developmental that are also developmental. I remember when we were in government and we were traveling to the Southeast to do funeral, a bunch of us ministers in a bus. And one minister who is from the north said, you people see now, you put all big houses in the village, it's a waste of money. Where is? I say, no, sir. I say, I'm on Google, I social capital. You lose a convening power. And the convening power is a forum for education. Convening power is a forum for assembling cooperatives for so many transformative ideas. By the time I was finishing, some knows go. So there were certain things that part of the crisis of an African, which Ali Mazrui tried to x-ray. But our identity was the multiple identity. Africa, Asian. Just like we abandoned our religion, we're another religion. So it's so culture. Professor Claude Eke, he came out clearly. You have to develop the people in the culture in which they know. But certain values, the alien our culture. So we must separate the two. So the values that are destructive, that are not promoting ethics, that are saying, make it any way you can, they are not the values for development. And we are saying, both us as citizens and the leaders can shape the way. When you see a convoy of somebody or 20 cars, 30 cars, so, second one, Southeast as the fastest growing region in the world. Yes, that was a fact. And the commercial agriculture, yes. The committee that I'm chairing is called the Alibo Stabilization Fund. That's what they named it. And if you, the investment company, Alibo investment company also we're trying to create. One of the pillars for commercial agriculture. That we need to return to that commercial agriculture. So if that is the question you are asking, yes, we need to pay attention. In fact, palm oil is in our supermarkets in America now. Travel to America because I have to go and do research for the value, the medicinal value of palm oil. The role of religion, I think the person at the back got me wrong. I never said, in fact, I am one of those who say that you cannot pray yourself into development, although possible. In fact, in Nigeria, we have the biggest churches all over the world, in Yemen and Nigeria. We will rather pay tithe than pay tax. That one is clear. But even in Nkata, the social contract are strong. So religion aburo a solution. The development of a human being with a spiritual aspect, which must be taken care of. No doubt about that. But Nigeria, Lee Kuan Yew and the rest, it's not that they threw away religion. You can practice whatever you want, but no way buying age. And there are ways in which we can do, we will get to where we are going. With planning, with improvising, and intelligent leadership and conscientious citizens. How? Okay, a very big question. If you listen to the lecture, where I referred to how, I may have said it not in depth, but in that lecture I gave in Lagos, I went back. Tutelage at the camp. Onye zoro mmadụ, mentorship. Onye kuzirigi. Because the boundary of knowledge, onye ahiji, bunkomota. So, on a dekagasi, because ntugari means imanime puchama and at the same time. One senator was telling me that he made all the efforts to bring me to the Senate to address the senators on the issues of national cohesion. Because I had a conversation with that senator. No. He was reminding me recently that he made all the efforts, they blocked it. Sometimes people actually know his joke. On where today, they will not be happy. Call like this. Don't you know that's the truth? Don't you know that we need to change how things are in order to get where we need to get to? So, ihe ga-eme bụ na anyị ncha ga-adị conscientious that the status quo is not good. Mo obere dị ya, mo okenye dị ya. And therefore, do the little within our powers to see a gradual process. But over time, these things game and I'll get him.
How do we drop this leader? Well, you've answered
yes, it's related to the last question. I want to encourage him because he he moderated it. He believed in democracy, but no, in kind of practice, which is what I also dealt with. In kind of practice now, Abronian, but you can't, that's not the definition. Obronian will be the definition. Where one person assumes, Abraham around the hand actually, where the servant is the master, and they insist on the master. So Marozi ndi nyeri di okwa, and anyị nwa bụzi ndị supposed to interrogate it. So now you keep quiet. We are singing and dancing. You keep quiet to each. No, I used to the akoaka.
Actively abetting. Please, another round of applause for Professor here. We'll take, unfortunately, a last set of questions, but I have to limit it to 3 questions because typically we end in Nkata way before now. Okay? Yes, I'll recognize you. What will happen is that this conversation can continue. I'm sure Prof will answer more questions online as we send these questions through the Center for Memories social media handles. Okay, let me begin with the Igwe in front here, and then the gentleman in red who had been raising a hand, and then we'll take a lady at the back in that order. Thank you. Okay, Chief Loretta, okay? Go ahead, Igwe.
Afambo, Ogbuefi Fidelisuma, Nele Malipe, Muabaki Okadioku, Nanam. Ekebulu monti of Manivi Ukulu, na nkụzi kụziri tata. O nwere ife ọ dị m ka ọnya kasị nwepụta ọfụma. M na-eji ilu wee ga-etinye ya n'ilu na a ga na-anụ ọgụ polisi wee bịa. A ga na-anụ ọgụ polisi wee bịa. Ọ dị m ka ọnya the only way I can summarize what you have said, because you took time to bring out the reflections, the symptoms of all our societal problems. But my question now is this. It's like the critical aspect of our quagmire seems to be aloof in the lecture, because structure, why all these things, like from when the Malaysians came here and took the palm kernel, we are operating with a different kind of structure. And that structure has changed. I don't know, the lawyers here will know that if you go to our constitution, there's one key word that is lacking. That is lacking in our constitution, and that is the word equity. And that lackage of that word, they replace it with equality. And equality, we can never relate as equals, because even our fingers are not equal. So, for us that's why I summarize the lecture by saying that I cannot know of police where we are taken. But there is a critical aspect that also those of us who are informed, who also have positions, should also try to emphasize that aspect. And that is what restructuring is all about. Because until that issue is addressed, we will continue to go in a merry-go-round. And that merry-go-round is what is frustrating everybody. So I want to ask, in your own opinion, how do you think that difference can be made for us to move forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll just give to Chief Anagola in front so we can be done with the dignitaries in front.
Professor, thank you very much for that exciting lecture. I want to put you on the spot. As a professor, you're used to telling people what to do. And as you said, you ask the questions and people answer. But my question to you today, as you've identified, and many Nigerians have identified as well, that the problem of Nigeria is leadership. You have spoken at different fora all over Nigeria about this. Leadership is about courage. It's about passion. It's about commitment. So at what point will people like you take the lead to throw your hat into the ring and actually demonstrate that leadership? Because politics of democracy is a display of courage for people. It's particularly in a place like Nigeria where it can get violent, which means anybody who throws their hat in the ring is going to beat their chest and know they have to be ready for anything. So, Prof, Oshimiri Nsukka, ndị mgbe ji eru n'gowa n'owo ekoro akpa iwere okpu ite n'ahịa chi n'osu igoshi ihe ị na-ekwu ka emewe na ọ bịaghị n'ọnụ.
Deje, no. All right, the gentleman in a red t-shirt, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Ostobu Oshimiri, my mentor, my boss.
Your name, please.
My name is Dr. Haijin Useze. Prof, I am very much touched by this presentation because it borders on issues that has been a nagging question among relatively young people, which is about institution and attitude. You know, and some people have said it's like the question of the egg or the chick, whether the institutional change has to come before attitudinal change, or whether it's actually the institution that changes the attitude. I was in the UK for 4 years as a doctoral student, and I found that even the white men commit crimes. They are as corrupt as people from every other part of the world. What seems to me to be the fundamental difference is that they have institutions that check these problems. So, Prof, the crucial question for me is, should we be emphasizing institutional change or attitudinal change? Thank you very much.
And the very last, the lady at the back, at the far back, last row. That would also be our last question for today, and Prof would answer. And hopefully we'll be out of here at most 8:30 p.m., which is less than 10 minutes from now. Right. Go ahead.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Ifunaya Madufo. So I'm going to be asking, the Prof mentioned earlier about the revival of our identity. So I want to know, does this include the revitalization of our language? And does it cover the awareness of our spirituality? That's the Igbo Ordinary or Menani. I also want to know if...
Just a bit more slowly. Okay? Please take the question one more time.
Okay. So he mentioned about the revival of our identity. So I want to know if this includes the revitalization of our indigenous language. That's the native language of the Igbos. I also want to know if this revival of identity covers the awareness of our spirituality. That's the Igbo Ordinary and Omenani. Then I'm also asking if the revival of these traditional behaviors I've just mentioned count as the attitude for a right development for the Igbos. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Prof.
I want to thank... Okay. Sir, are you Igwe? Oh, no, okay. Okay, the idea. The next, are you from Asaba? Anam, because it's similar. Yeah, they have a J in, okay. Thank you very much. You know, you spoke about structural issues. You spoke about no. Only police, something until the police are So, Imana Oguanan can even produce change. Police na abiazi of no so the Kwang Pakana sometimes. Go and they produce super change. You see, so dislodge the status quo requires a lot. Maka ihe no niabu a battle of Nandia believe ni ihe dị ka ọ dị is in their interest, but abroad in the interest of the majority. And the majority, the powerless. In certain ways. Manahadro are powerless in other ways. So all they need is to be organized and galvanized. Kamaruma, this new enthronement. And that is why in USA, now, change sometimes comes from onye no believe that he or she can be the instrument of change and therefore willing to take the cost. Must know the cost. Onwe ki esi bata, if you privileges, isi achoromia. It requires something. It requires make and it's not an easy thing. As soon as security vote to be 1 billion every month, it's about for what? How? So while people are fighting, waiting for police, the fight in itself is useful in producing change. Ogufodo, police you will see Norway disinfect. And so I this work at various levels. I will leave Chief Loretta's Niagara's question for the last. Okay. Hygienius as the doctor. Institutional change or attitudinal change, or both. Or either or. It's not even a chicken and an egg. The truth of the matter is that setting the orientation we talked about, there are 3 pillars: the leadership, the citizens, and the institution. So we didn't say one or the other. All 3. Makano leaders, citizens, when they make a demand, we have constraints. Constraints, and that is why I tell people, you can't just be creating ministries. You create ministries to solve problems. You appoint commissioners, every problem. Institutions are created to resolve certain difficulties. And if you have value, in the United Kingdom, every 5 years they review institutions. I say, okay, the duties of this institution, private sector, and I think they are doing it better. In our country, we create institutions to resolve certain difficulties, the temporary or the permanent. We have created institutions saying we're of value, and we are still paying. We have library board, library, even though we're supposed to have library. Because you can't be paying people salary. And so the change is both institutional, is both attitudinal. And they need to come simultaneously. Revival of identity. This native language, Ema, Ogu for some of us who are Igbos, you translate, you just don't get the thing. When I wrote my novel, The Moon Also Sets, I was living in Nairobi, Kenya. The journalist came to interview me. First, he said he has never seen an economist who has done a major novel. This novel I'm referring to is now being used for A-level studies in Uganda. It's being used even in universities in UK. It's published in Kenya, and it's also published by Heinemann here in Ibadan. The same work. Why am I bringing this story? When he came to interview me, my worry, but my children cannot write this novel. Also, again, he said, can you see how I deploy the Igbo language in the context of the way Chinua Achebe writes? We don't, when certain Igbo words, we no longer translate. As we write. Yeah. So, because they are not fully embedded in that language, they are not, but they can produce this work. So, what is very important even for development, a sense of identity. Sense of identity, pride in who one is, or the critical. Because somebody maroni confusion abia. Somebody will tell you this, tell you that. And as our children were growing up, they began to realize that that sense of identity is very critical. Because Han Chongoro were English name. Because it's very unfortunate now. I was in Addis Ababa one time, a guy who was almost my age, and that Fiabu, Emeka, Chukwu Emeka. When I went to him to say, Nakeduke Kime, also, you know, my father was a diplomat. He said, hey, almost my age mate was trying to tell me, I came back and I told my children, I kept telling them, sorry, if you go, Fiabu, Emeka, Chukwu Emeka. The natural thing is to say Nakedu, and we start the Igbo language. So, revival of our culture, revival of this identity is critical even in the Igbo, in the Southeast, in the Alibo development program that we're talking about. Finally, Chief Loretta's question. Loretta knows the answer. In 2007, I resigned my office. I was Minister of National Planning. I resigned. This is not, I made a major sacrifice to join the race to be governor of Enugu State. So hi, Loretta saying, throw your heart in the race, as if I have not thrown my heart in the race.
She means again. Yeah? She means again.
Yeah? So I threw my heart in the race. Hold on, I'm coming. And the elite who were doing song and dance, did not think there should be a coalition to upturn the old order. Courage. The leader is going to make an enormous sacrifice, but in the other, this change must also make the sacrifice. And Loretta is aware that when we had a second opportunity, I went round Makocha Hemful. Somebody told me, Nenugua, you don't have to be a genius to be a governor. Yeah, give rap ideas and an ordinary fellow. Murape ideas uno anine. Ability has become what? Disability. So my challenge back to Loretta, bro. Nyakwadobekwa. Na obuna ga galvanize the elite. Ameme song and dance. And ndi ji ifeji ekwe. Ima no we heji ekwe. Agbara aka ekwe.
Mba no.
Ndi ji heji ekwe. Then ndi ga ebu di ogu nokwa. My children think that I'm even too old. Mana anya adigo overseas. Mana onwe kife ga-esi dị ichegharịa. Ntụgharị omume ka anyị
Let me just remind Prof that America has just elected a 78-year-old president. So, Prof Gatwa Rekwifa, Akwaya, Owoya Kowoya, Owoya Kowoya. Prof, the A's have it. All right, thank you all very much. My job is done, and I hand over back to Nana Ude. Please, a round of applause for Professor Osita Ogbo. A standing applause, please, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ogbo. Thank you very much, Mr. Ken Ikeokere. It's very sad to end a very good conversation like this. But we, like I always say, we are prisoners of our own time. Just to say thank you once again to Professor Ogbo for accepting the invitation and for delivering a lecture that's so impactful. I'm sure the online audience are also having the kind of fun that we're having here. Thank you to our moderator, Mr. Ken Ikeokere. You moderated the session so well. Thank you so much. And thank you to all participants, all of us here who have honored the invitation to be here with us today. We are back, and Nkata Umuibe is back to stay. We'll see you again in February. We normally don't host it in January because of the Christmas holiday. So in February, we'll be back here, and we'll have the next edition of Nkata Umuibe. Thank you to to Enugu Sports Club for hosting us one more time, and we look forward to sustaining this partnership. Good night, everybody, and see you again next time. We will then take our group photograph, as we normally do, with the guest speaker. So everybody in the audience, please come to the front. Let's take a group photograph with the guest speaker. Thank you very much. Good night.